Hello, welcome to this session on in Power Automate Basics. That's a very high level introduction to the technical architecture of Power Automate. Let's look at desktop flows to start with. So we do have a course on admin that's in development at the moment. It may be up on the platform right now. It's slated for release in February 2022. In that, we go into a lot more detail around the architecture. But in this one, I just want to cover some important high-level items that are useful to know if you are thinking about architecting out some flows, some Power Automate solutions. First thing is around where these particular things are stored. So for Power Automate Desktop, obviously you can automate user interfaces, but where is the data stored for those desktop flows? So if you look over on the right hand side here, there is a desktop that's on premise, so it's in a machine, on a machine on premise, and there's a designer in Power Automate Desktop, and then you can also access the web portal to view the desktop flows in the web portal. These items that are created down here are all stored in the Dataverse. So all of the desktop flows that are created are attached to the account they are created with, and you can log into any other machine and those flows will be available to you because they live in the Dataverse. They live centrally in Azure in the Dataverse. So this is at design time. You're creating these desktop flows and they're all being stored in Dataverse. And then at runtime, what's happening is Power Automate is running in Azure, the Power Automate product. It is then leveraging machine registrations to then call the Power Automate desktop service on that machine and execute that user interface automation. These don't have to be the same machine. So this machine could be separate to the designer machine. And that's often the best way to do it, is to create these flows, share them with this account, and then have them run on this machine under that registration. Because the flows live in the Dataverse. So you can have actually one thing here just to note here is that desktop flow service, this desktop flow service down here, this allows for what's known as unattended scenarios, unattended automation. We have a module on unattended automation in this course. If that's something you're interested in, please do watch that. And this allows for clustering. So the cloud, Power Automate Desktop here in Azure, connects to the desktop service here and manages that handoff and clustering and load balancing for Power Automate Desktop unattended flows. So that's the architecture of desktop flows, there is also a concept of environments. Each environment is a collection of these components, users and flows and apps and databases or shared database. So each environment is separate. It's got its own region, and a typical environment might have, a typical organization might have two environments. You might have a development environment and a production environment. And what you can do is create these things called solutions that I'll talk about in a second, and you can synchronize the data between the two environments. They are these logical containers. You can have a development environment, start building solutions, and then connect to development data. When you're ready for it to be in production, you then move that collection of objects to a production environment to connect to the real life data. So environments are created in the admin center. There are trial environments you can set up that last for 30 days, or you can set up production environments, and each environment has a region, and then so you can set that up to be region aware for data sovereignty, and each environment you can choose whether it has a database or not. Dataverse is required for Power Automate solutions, certainly Power Automate Desktop. So you need to make sure you create an environment with a Dataverse for Power Automate Desktop. And you can secure access to the environments. But one of the main reasons of creating a separate environment might be for access management. So you may want to create just an environment that's purely dedicated to automation, or you might want to have it as part of a department or geographical location and control access to that particular environment. And how this works in terms of moving data between development and production environments, for example, or between different environments in general. So if each environment is a collection of components, then those components are moved by using these things called solutions. So solutions, you can have many solutions inside an environment, and the solution can have many different components. It can have an app, it can have a collection of flows, it can have Dataverse tables, it can have many AI models, all sorts of things can live inside a solution. And what you do when you want to move that solution from development to prod, you export that solution and import it into the production environment. So one single operation will move all of those assets from one environment to another. And you can do that setup using Azure DevOps to do that. And it will manage the version controls and things like that. In the development environment, it would be an unmanaged solution, but in the production environment, it would be a managed solution, which means that it can't be changed in that environment. So you see how it's faded out there. It just means that all the development is done in the dev environment, and then when it's ready to be moved into production, then you overwrite the existing solution, and you can always roll back to the previous version of that solution by using this architecture. So that's a very high level introduction of the different type of components in Power Automate. I do highly recommend that you do our admin course. If it's available now, go and do it, or wait until February, end of February, you'll be able to do that course then. Thank you for watching, and see you around.